Awesome. Okay. Yes, I'm so happy to have you guys all here. It's so wonderful. Thank you for investing your time with us tonight. I do want to start by sharing too that if you stay till the end, we are going to be offering some gifts. So those of you that can stay. So my name is Veda. It's so great to meet you guys. If you don't know who I am yet, my brand is Veda Revival. And I really want to start by introducing myself. Sam, if you could switch the slides real quick. Awesome. Yes, one more. Perfect. So, to introduce myself, I am a woman, and my mission is to help mankind revive the wisdom of our pristine ancient ancestors. My purpose is to guide mankind back home to our roots to live as sovereign men and women, taking radical responsibility for our lives. So, one of the ways that I help mothers and fathers take responsibility of their lives is I help teach them about the truth about the birth certificate and how to have babies outside the systems and raise them outside of the systems as well. And that includes raising them without a birth certificate, without a social security number, and all of that. So if you're new to all this information about the birth certificate, we're going to go into that a little bit today, but if you really want to deep dive all that, check out my website, check out my Instagram, check out my YouTube page. You can find me. My website is vedarevival.com. I'm most active on Instagram. So if you're not following me already, give me a follow there, my YouTube channel. And if you have questions, you can always email me info@vedarevival.com. But yeah, today I want to talk about a really fun topic here. But first, before we go into all of it, I want to talk about how there's been an inversion. We've been living in two different realms, and not a lot of people recognize that. A lot of us think, we're born thinking we're the players on the Monopoly board. So we've been in this deception world, in this illusion world, in the public. We've been thinking there's the world. We've had this identity. We've been using forms. We've been identifying with citizenship when there's this whole other realm. There's the truth. There's real life. There's private life, self, records, nationality. Like, this is a whole other realm that not a lot of us have even known exists. So we're zooming out of the Monopoly board and realizing we're not the little players in the game. This is real life, and the Monopoly game is not real, but we're learning how to play the game. So just first of all, learning that everything's been inverted in another way. So there's been a mirror, essentially. So when I talk to mothers and fathers about raising babies outside the system, there's the public system and then there's the private system. So Sam, I'm going to have you switch to the next slide. There we go. Yeah, there's the public. So when I tell mothers and fathers, hey, this is how the public works. The public works with a birth certificate. We're registering with a birth certificate. They're getting a passport based on citizenship. We have a public trust with a social security number, essentially, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but essentially when we were born and a birth certificate was created, a public trust was created in our name, and a social security number is attached to that trust. So essentially, it's all been controlled by the government. Then there's using the social security fund, social security insurance. Not a lot of people know that that's an insurance trust fund. So we've been doing this all publicly. So when I'm telling mothers and fathers, hey, you can raise your babies outside of these systems, you can do it privately, but essentially what we're doing is mirroring this public system, but we're doing it privately, we're controlling it privately. So in the private way, what we're doing is we're recording our private records. And I say record, not register. We're getting a passport based on nationality. Not a lot, we haven't even been taught that there's a difference between citizenship and nationality. We're getting private trusts with EIN. So rather than using that public trust and a social security number, we're doing private trusts with EINs. And rather than doing social security insurance trust fund, we're getting index universal life insurance policies to do our own private banking. So we're not using public banks, we're using our private banking. So today I want to talk about the private trust aspect because, again, those are the four big keys if you want to be living outside of the systems. A private trust is absolutely essential. So when it comes to private trust, A lot of people, and me included, when I first started learning about trust, I had no concept of what a trust even was. The only thing I really kind of knew about a trust was that that was like for rich people, and rich people had trust fund babies. And whatever that meant to me, that meant that they were just rich and all they were just their families passed down money to them. I didn't have that luxury, I want to say. So I just thought that was out of reach for me. But the more I started learning about trust, I started learning that a trust actually, in God we trust, is a trust. And the social security is a trust. And my name, the birth certificate was a trust. And I started realizing, oh my gosh, I've been operating out of a trust my entire life and I didn't even know it. I've unknowingly been doing this. So that's kind of the plot twist for all of you guys here. If you're new to trust, have no idea what a trust is, the surprise is you've been actually doing it your entire lives. So we're going to kind of get more into that and how this came to be and how we can start doing this intentionally instead of unknowingly. So I talk about babies again. I'm kind of the sovereign baby specialist, I want to say. And if you're going to have a sovereign baby without a birth certificate and social, this is essential. If you want to set them up for success, you have to set up a trust for them. But this is not just for sovereign babies. This is for the whole family. Everyone should be operating this way and start separating ourselves from this public trust that the government controls and start doing this intentionally for our whole families. So ideally, we're all operating out of a family trust. We're creating this legacy for our generations and doing this intentionally. So I'm excited to introduce to you my favorite ladies in the world, and they are the trust experts. So I invited them on this call today so that you guys can learn from the experts. Minister Dion and Minister Samantha, they are the creators of Cosmic School of Trust. So I'm gonna hand the show over to them. First, Minister Dion, I'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll get going.
Yes, welcome everyone. I am Minister Dion, Private Living Soul. My abundance is my birthright, and I'm trusting that it's all of you here today. I help living souls navigate from citizenship back to nationality in the most divine, loving way. Deep Sea Royalty is my brand, and it's somewhat like a virtual mothership. I bring you on this wonderful cruise line to help you see all the ways that we have been lost at sea, operating in the law of sea, bringing you back through the lens of the most divine creator into bringing you to the land, like the Little Mermaid. I want to help you stand in your divine sovereignty. And Cosmic School of Trust came along, and I inherited Minister Samantha, who is just so well versed in finance. And so I'll give it to you, Minister Sam.
Greetings, everyone. I'm trying work with me with the slides, why don't ya? I am a living soul as well, in the flesh, but through the screen. My gift is just to ignite everyone and with trust within themselves, and then to express it on the paper. That's exactly what we teach. Even through the natural born birthing process, it's a trust process. So understanding how that connects with what we're talking about tonight is what you'll see. So I'm so excited for you all to get the message.
Yes, and always we like to go into our disclaimer. The information being shared today is not legal advice. Everything will solely be for inspirational, motivational, and educational purposes. My partners and I, we are not attorneys, lawyers, CPAs, tax specialists, or any of the like. You are responsible for any advice you choose to take from this presentation. We reserve all rights, liberties, and religion. Let's go.
All right, with our programs, we usually like to start at the end so you know what to expect. So this Foundations of Trust course is created with the intent to raise your awareness back to your sovereign divine blueprint and DNA. Come on this journey with us. Being fully sovereign and free is a state of mind. As we shift internal beliefs, we also shift the external world as well. You cannot be more free than you see yourself to be. Get ready to reprogram your mind.
And please be present. We know that you got your kids, you might be thinking about work, you might be thinking about things you need to do at your own job, you might be on your phone getting texts from your friends. But please be present because this is literally a DNA reprogramming that is happening here. So your presence will be gifted. If you can stay to the end, we have a gift for all of you. So let's deep dive and reflect. And go ahead and give a 111 in the comments if you've ever heard that voice within saying there's more to life.
In Vancouver.
And please
Went on
mute
for
your
3
mic.
hours because Mondo came on as well.
I'm gonna
I
mute
don't think that's
all.
part of it tonight. But if we're just with them,
I just muted everyone. So Minister Sam and Minister Veda, just remember you're muted as well. All right, so put yes. If you have, you thought about your purpose and you wonder if you're creating a sustainable life in your career, your happiness, have you thought about the way that you've currently been operating? What do you want out of this life? And what brings you a sense of legacy? Your legacy is the energy that you leave behind. It's not the paperwork, it's not the cars, it's not the money, it's not the house, it's your energy. If you died today, do your loved ones know what to do? Give me a no if your loved ones would not know what to do if you were to transition today. And how do you want to express yourself? And this is going to be so interactive because we need this shift to occur. So thank you for your participation. So what does living sovereign and free look like to you? Please share in the comments. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Please share in the comments. I would love to hear it. And with everything that was just shared, as we deep dive and reflect, I know for me, just growing up very religiously, having a religious background, I always felt like, how come this creator that's being forced on me from my parents just did not connect to the way my lifestyle was? I just felt very disconnected. I felt like I wasn't happy. I wasn't living this abundant life. I didn't feel like I was living that sustainable life. And we actually, in my family, never had conversations about life and death and what to do when someone transitions. All I know is there just kept being people dropping like flies around me. And the more I started to witness, something about death teaches us about life. And that reflection allowed me to want to explore more about how we can be prepared, not just as we transition, but when we're living. Just like life insurance, most people think it's just about when you die, but that's why it's called life insurance. So, what really happened? Why are we all disconnected? Why are we feeling like we're not living out the lives we were meant to be? Well, global power took place, religion, and hidden contracts. It's all happening simultaneously, whether we know it or not. And I'm going into the chat as well, ready to be alive, living free from the government overreach. It looks like living in a way where I trust all that comes through, allowing everything to be in existence, to move freely in my soul and body, to think the thoughts I have without the need for any approval or expectation, clearing of distortions, to see clearly, to be so connected with the truth within me, true freedom. I love all this. I love it. And keep pouring into the comments because that's your energy being able to be shifted and moved into another timeline and dimension. Something we must know is that commerce does not concern itself with sacredness. And let that just sit with you. We come from the most divine, therefore we are divine. We come from the creator, therefore we are creators. And even if you don't know your value, isn't there someone that always does and they're trying to steal that light or that energy from you? And so we're looking from the lens of we didn't see the value in ourselves, but someone did. So let's really get into the history of who that someone is. We all hear they, right? Give me a 111. If you always hear about they, who is the they that we're all talking about, right? Let's get into it. So in 1302, Unum Sanctum was created. It was one of the first papal bulls and world's first express trust. The Pope created this, Pope Boniface VIII, said that we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for salvation that every human creature be subject to the Roman plaintiff. The Pope wanted to take global power, and I want to get into it more. Unum Sanctum is one of the most frightening documents of history and one of the most quoted as the primary document of the Pope claiming global power. It is an express trust deed. There's a lot of people, a lot of trust gurus that talk about trust but do not share the origin of trust. The Pope wanted to take all the land, the bodies, and the souls. And furthermore, saying, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for salvation that every human creature be subject to the Roman plaintiff. It is not only the first trust deed in history, but also the largest trust ever conceived, as it claims the whole planet and everything in it. This is not private information. This is public information. And how many of us just give a 222 if you've never even heard or known of this? When we're thinking about the origin and how something started and why we're so disconnected, why our lives are not feeling glorious and abundant, why we go to school for 13 plus years and we come out not even knowing simple lifestyle skills or economics or how to operate, knowing real estate and gardening. Literally, the Pope wanted to take global power. I want you to get this and let it resonate deeply within your soul. If you're not connected to the divine source and you're not knowingly aware, your consciousness is being stolen, which means you're asleep, which means that you're disconnected from the creator source energy. So somebody came in, and I just said that the Pope knew, saw your value, and wanted to take that, conveying the land, the bodies, and the souls into a trust. Now, I hear some people say they can't take my soul. Let me tell you, and we're going to get deeper into how that happens. But this right here is saying the birth of you into their trust. So, in order to create a business, what do you need? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. In order to create a business, what do you need? Anybody in the chat? Just, this isn't a trick question. I'm serious. Just put what you think you need in order to establish a business. Taxpayer, ID number, EIN, name. Yes, yes, yes. So when you were born, cute little you, right? Coming out into this wonderful realm and world, they was like, oh my gosh, you're having a baby boy, you're having a baby girl. What's their name? How cutesy, right? They were asking the name so they can create the name of the trust. Your name in all caps is the name of the trust. Then they're like, oh my gosh, who's they? The Pope. They've been coming up with this for eons of literally how to make you. This is really smart, y'all, when you think about it. It's crafty and it's witchcraft. They're like, how can I make money over time, over lifetimes, and for the rest of somebody else's life? They're like, let's create a business trust, and we're going to use their productive energy to do the work. So some of you said, get an EIN, right? We were hit with the employee identification number. That's what that stands for. You became an employee to who? To the business trust, to the government, to the public. So your cute little private self became public on paper. Now you're public on paper. You got your, let's say articles of incorporation. That's for LLC. For a trust, you have your declaration, right? So they have the declaration. What's the name of the trust? Whatever your cute name is. All right. So then they said, let me get an EIN. So every time you work, all right, go ahead and put yes, yes, yes. If you ever had a job and they said, they gave you a W-4, W-9 or whatever, and they said, give me, and if you're from other countries, don't worry, I see you. It's the same game, okay? Just, it's the same game. So you had a SIN number, a NIN number, a EIN, you had an employee identification, and when you worked at a job they said give me that, and then who was they sending that over to? The IRS, the bully, right? Okay, let's just call them out. They're the other they. So the IRS, just a debt collector, let me just say that there, this debt collector has all your information now, proving that you hired and contracted with them to take money for you because you didn't know how to be your own bank. So we're gonna teach you that here. So they said, okay, we got this business trust now established, the EIN, and of course they got to have insurance on you. So they created, and they didn't ask permission. They just tacked along that social security, that insurance to guarantee if anything were ever to happen to you, right? If you get disabled at work, guess who's still getting paid? They are, all off of your productive energy. The EIN is used to open a bank account. So they literally created that social security account. If you go, you can Google this, and they've revised the social security card. So actually the original social security card used to have bank names on the back of it. And our number that's on the back of it actually used to be the account number and the routing number. Just something to keep in mind. So did we all get this? 111 if you all got this. Literally, they created a whole business trust out of you, and you became the paper straw man. The Wizard of Oz was used to say you're literally the straw man. You don't have a brain to operate with. The Tin Man is literally it's your taxpayer identification number. And we had the beautiful gold on the yellow brick road, and we moved away from that. Are we all here? We all following? We good? Two, two,
Yeah.
two. I'm
Dion,
ready.
on that topic too, the old social security number or cards, it literally used to say employee signature as well. And you'd sign as an employee.
There we go. There we go. So we're bringing you into the fact that you became a worker bee for their system. And to bring it even further, give me a 111 if you're familiar with the stock market. If not, a 2. So basically, in order for a company to go private from public on the stock market, you have to be of value. You have to be something of value. So every part of our body is of value. Think of just an example, Chick-fil-A, they're a private owned company. They're not public, which means they're not a part of the stock market. But let's just use a company that is Walmart, Apple. These are all public companies. They chose to go public. So you go to the bank, they tell you what the value of your company is. Many, you can look this up. We were valued at $1 million. Let's just start there. Now you've been working, and I'm going to get into soul syntaxing, but they've been watching you come in every time. So on a physical level, something is happening. They're seeing this is a company, they're worth value. Let's just say NBA player, for instance. They're like, let's raise the value up and pour into what do we do right on the stock market? If you know a company's good, you're going to keep investing in it, which is going to raise the value of that company. And we'll get into stock certificates and all of that, but I just wanted to make sure that we all have digested what the heck is going on. We got it? 111 if we get it. Literally, it's human trafficking. Minister Sam, if you can go back to that other slide. And I want us to talk about what happened at a physical level. So I teach about status correction for those of you that don't know. And status correction is literally an umbrella. We're looking at things from a lens of what is all the ways that we have contracted on a spiritual level and a physical level, because there's always something going on. Let me know in the comments if all of you have heard about the truth behind the birth certificate. Give a 111 if you saw that video before, and then we'll know if we don't need to go back. Everybody saw it. Good. So on a physical level, you could stay there, Minister Sam. On a physical level, we know that through the birth certificate, registration, regis is Latin for giving up ownership. It's king. You gave up ownership over to the king. Who's the king? The crown of England, whoever is sitting in that position. All right. And so then we get into newborn screening. There's newborn screening, there's the soul plate. These things are happening when we decided to go into the hospital, right? We go all the way back to when the Pope wanted to take all the land, the bodies, and the soul. Fast forwarding to that, you can look into doctrine of discovery. This is where the Pope said, okay, I want to baptize everybody into being a Christian. This is where religion really came about. People from the original lands were being pulled apart from their families. You can look into Dumb's Diversus as well, being pulled apart from their families to be kidnapped, raped, put into residential schools, and needing to be indoctrinated. So with where we are today, most of our ancestors, we were having babies out in the fields, babies home births. And then when we lost and disconnected from our natural origin, I love how Minister Veda always says pristine origins. You know, we're coming back to that. We can see that in the lens today that people are opting out of these systems and programs that no longer serve us. So we see in the hospital this example, and I'm just going to go ahead and Minister Sam, if you can hit play. So as you could see here, what's happening is they're taking the baby's blood. And most of us, we give up our blood. How many of you give a 111 if you've just given up your blood unknowingly? You do whatever the doctor has said to do because you just don't know. Obviously, we're not thinking anything negative with it, but it's literally going into soul contracts.
Test. 3, remember the heel prick. 3,
Yeah,
they
Minister
knew
Sam,
about
you
the
got to
test.
keep your
Like most
mic
parents,
on.
none knew what happened.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. So looking at that video, and it is also on my Instagram page, so I'll just drop that in the chat too, so you can look at those videos. It's Minister Dion. But what that video is talking about is most of us go into the hospital completely unknowing that all these contracts are being handed to us. So as we're opting in to do what we just think is normal and natural, and they dress it up to be cutesy, on the back end, the Vatican is collecting this work, collecting the DNA, collecting the blood samples, and they're doing their own rituals and witchcraft with it. So on a physical level, we're saying, yes, of course, you know, as guardians, we want to make sure our baby's safe, that we're doing the right thing. But in most doctors and nurses, they're trained to just know the simple what we see in the public face of what's going on. They don't typically know the spiritual contracts that's going on in the background. We wasn't taught this information. Of course, why would we be taught this information? Because they're making money off of us. So if we know, that means we get to close down a system and structure that no longer serves us. And that's where we're going. And so, Minister Sam, are you able to move slides?
The annotate button won't hold on.
Shift out of the way.
It will not get out the way. Let me see. Which one was that? Do you remember?
If you just use your desktop to hit the arrow on the desktop instead of trying to do it from the screen.
Okay, so I'm back to
Yep, keep going. We're past the videos of the newborn screening. So we know these things are going on at a physical level. I'll let you know when to stop. And then we know that there are contracts, and everybody's seen that video there. And if you haven't, you can look at it on my Instagram page at Minister Dion. And it's also on YouTube. Just put in the truth behind the birth certificate.
I'll play it.
Hmm?
I'll play it if you want me to.
Give it 222 in the comments if you want to see this video. This is beyond a heel prick, and when parents are okay, let's let it roll.
A heel prick. Nearly every baby born in the U.S. gets one shortly after birth. Their newborn blood fills 6 spots on a special card used to test the baby for dozens of disorders that, if treated early enough, could prevent severe disabilities, even death. But unless your child is diagnosed with a disorder, it's often lost in the fog of childbirth.
Genetic testing?
We randomly selected 6 new moms and asked about their baby's genetic test. 3 remember the heel prick, 3 think they knew about the test, but like most parents, none knew what happened after the test.
Were you aware that the state was storing your child's DNA? No.
Do you think you should have been aware?
Absolutely.
You see, for the baby's own potentially life-saving test, researchers generally only need a few spots. The remaining blood becomes property of the state, may be sold to outside researchers without your knowledge or consent.
Blood is inherently or intrinsically personally identifiable.
Now, some states destroy the blood spots after a year. 12 states store them for at least 21, but California is one of 4 states that stores them indefinitely in a state-run biobank.
I just didn't realize that there's a repository somewhere of every baby born in the state. It's like fingerprints.
Companies aren't very good at keeping data safe. They try. There just should be accountability and transparency.
While parents don't have the right to opt out before.
Yeah, so just because it sounds good does not mean that it is. And, it's where coerce some of the time into these situations because when you're in the hospital, they're just pressing these things on you. For them, it's we have to remember that the hospitals are public businesses and they are looking to get money. So any way they can rack up your hospital bill, that's what they're looking to do. And we have to stop taking things so personally. Stop thinking that we can trust everyone. It is a business and they're there to do their job and help the business be well. So going back to other Luciferian contracts on a physical level, if you want to hit play on this, Minister Sam.
Called a soul plate. Okay, this is an original one. This is a real one. This is called a soul plate. Now you can attorn the word all you want, but to me it means they think that they have contracted your soul. Okay. So there are all these little things that they do that people don't understand their origins in law. So the purpose of putting your child's footprint on a negotiable instrument and creating a soul plate is to contract the child by putting his actual corporeal foot on a negotiable instrument before he puts his foot on the land and gets his inheritance. So that is the origin of this act that the doctors, titles of nobility, are doing for the king and the queen and the pope. So it's a simple act. And now you know the origins of it, and now you know the law.
Yes, so this document, the newborn identification with the footprints, is a soul plate. It's a negotiable instrument. And when you can look into inheritance laws, law stands for land, air, water. So the goal of that footprint was that if your foot was to hit the paper first, you wouldn't be entitled to the land. Because everybody born of the land, when you think of nationality, it is where your mother is born and where you are born, you would have an inherent right. But if you hit the paper first, you were contracted into their system, hence contract law, as a straw man. The paper is been what they have been needed. This is the paper game. If they can get you on paper consenting, and then they get you verbally consenting, then you've given consent for all of these things to happen. Okay? So there's physical contracts and there's spiritual contracts, just like you think of soul contracts. Just because you don't know what's happening doesn't mean it's not. So what is happening on a spiritual level? Roman overlord took control of our sacred body and land. So let me just also say this. Your body is your land. It is your temple. Your body is mostly made up of water. These are some water codes coming in from the law of the sea. You cannot take jurisdiction over land. Why? Because water flows. But if I could bottle you up and on paper say that I have control of your body and I conveyed it to the land, hence the express trust. Are we all following this? The Pope wanted to take all the land, the body, and the souls. So the Pope took control of the land, the newborn screening, baptism. I'm not going to get all into that here because we could be here all day. But it is all forms of a contract. And just to say this, most churches that have a 503 gave up their freedom of speech. You can look into the Johnson Act. I believe it's a 1954, where they partnered with the government and they gave up their tax code, which would not allow them to speak freely in the way that we do here. So, anyways, that's important to note, because your church registrars collect those the baptism certificates, and where do you think that goes? All right, just things to think about. So they here we go with they again, these overlords have controlled our energy. We are energy, we are matter, we matter, and they have watched us over. I'm going to mute all again. They have watched us come in. So if you are into knowing that the soul reincarnates, the soul comes back, they've watched you every timeline and dimension coming in to see how far you go spiritually, because you're either going to bring them more money and productive energy for them to use and harness. This in them taking your blood and DNA, that's a other deeper connection, but this is known as soul sin taxing. Hence that word taxing, right? It is taxing on us. We are drained, right? This is water codes because we've been operating in the law of the sea. And we are bringing you back to the law of the land. I'm ready, Minister Sam. So our mission is to free all souls, all right? Through spiritual decree, through spiritual equity. And what spiritual equity is really knowing that on a soul and cellular level, we are divine. We come from the creator, therefore we are creators. And if you have connected with your spirit team, your guides, you've been doing the inner work from day one, then you have equity. Equity from one of just being who you are, but then two, in your virtual video game that you're all living out in these levels, you are leveling up. So our mission is to free you, and one way is by declaration of divine sovereignty. Through this process, you would be ending all Luciferian blood contracts that we've opted into as babies. In this case, it is the reclaiming of your bloodline back from these overlords. And this is the most powerful thing you can do to liberate and regain divine sovereign rights for your soul, body, and temple. And so, yes, praying over the computers, all the things. We unknowingly abandon our own property to the state, and it is time to get in the game and stop sitting on the sideline. So we'll talk about the spiritual decree later within the call for those of you that can stay on. So the power of trust is really the power of us. Think about it. If we opted out from all of these systems that are no longer serving us, then what would happen? They would start literally doing the Cupid shuffle in the background. Like, how is the business going to survive if we aren't the ones funding it? What's really happening on a physical level for us? As we have these spiritual contracts, there's physical contracts. Whenever we say no to a contract in the physical, there's a cause and effect in the spiritual realm as well. So if you didn't get the jab, you said no to it, on a physical level, that still translates to something. If you said yes, it still translates to a cause and effect. So why create trust? We're losing balance over the land, the air, the water. We see in all the ways we're being hit with, our food being poisoned, the air is being poisoned, the water is being poisoned. There's no justice, there's no balance. But if we come together as a collective and raise our state of consciousness, we can bring back this sense of sacredness within the world. I'm ready.
All right. So what is a trust? The public answer is simply like a citizen. You're known as a citizen because of the public trust that they created. Their version is a trust is a separate legal entity like a corporation. Trust holds personal property such as assets for you or for the benefit of others. The trust document specifies how your assets should be managed and how, when, and to whom your assets will be distributed. Many people think only the wealthy can benefit from trust, but it's simply not true. Trusts are highly flexible and can be provided for an almost unlimited combination of needs, circumstances, and objectives. The private answer, if you haven't known, you are sui juris. You are a living person. The trust, if you work with us, a trust is a private contract. Trust can hold private property, not tax, no state, no capitalism. What are some private properties you are aware of? Does anyone know what type of properties you have? If you could put it in the chat, that would be great. I'll wait for a couple of things to pop up. What type of private properties you think you may be aware of? And while you're doing that, I'm going to continue. Plans are crowned the king and queens of contracts because plans are the idea that can translate into a vessel. So when I'm saying plans, you are literally imprinted a seed from your higher self, and that is then written on paper. Now, when you put it into a format, it becomes a trust because you trusted that interception of that message that got to you. So there are 5 elements of a trust: offer, acceptance, consideration, and my bar is in the way, mental capacity, and the intention of manifest. Those are the ingredients for a contract. And when you come with us, we'll teach you more on trust. So common kinds of trusts people may be aware of. There are 2 broad categories of trust: the inter vivos or a lifetime trust, which are created while you're alive, and testamentary trusts, which are created at your death. There are 2 common types of lifetime trust. Revocable, which is a living trust you may have heard, is the most common kind of trust. It generally acts as a combination of a property management vehicle for you while you're alive and an alternative to a will to distribute assets. So the revocable is an alternative to a will. Irrevocable trusts are also common, but serve very different purposes from revocable trusts. When you create an irrevocable trust, you are usually making an immediate gift of the asset in the trust to the trust beneficiaries. A testamentary trust is created after your death by the terms of your will. A testamentary trust, because it's formed at your birth, provides no lifetime benefits. The irrevocable trust that you work with us, we explain. A lot of people say, oh, you can't take things out of a trust. Well, it depends on what the trust was written, how it was written. And if you work with us, we'll go over that. A will can be contested, if you all have heard. And then there's some attorneys who are starting to put in a will that it can't be contested. However, you still leaving assets on the table. So the will is still not the strongest. There are 3 main positions in a trust: the creator, which is the grantor or the settlor. The ones with the or give something to someone. Trustee is the manager that handles fiduciary duties and obligations like orders. They must be honored. Trustee is the the receiving person. Beneficiary, the only role they have is to just sit back, relax. They are the ones that they're like the babies that are just like never growing up till they're 18. They're enjoying all your fruits and labor versus the government enjoying all your fruits and labor. So entrusted role, we were born as beneficiaries, but as soon as the woman gives birth, she is birthing a new beneficiary and she automatically becomes the trustee. Did anyone know that? And if you think about the process, it's really a trusted process. She has to trust her body around strangers, depending on the route she goes, right? So, the woman just has to be open to trusting her body so that her body can open and she can then change roles. It's just a spiritual asset that happens. A trust fund baby versus trust baby. Has anyone heard of a trust fund baby? Put a 1 in the chat if you heard of it, but you just couldn't figure it out. All right, let's try to break it down if you've heard it, but you weren't sure how to do it, right? So a trust fund baby is a trust is created later in an adult's life. So assets of the trust are left to the baby. So the trust fund was created after the baby was born. Trust baby, a baby being born wrapped into a trust, means that the trust already existed. The parents already has a life insurance policy set up. Noted, this is very important. Because a life policy is already in existence on the parent and the trust is the beneficiary and the owner of the life insurance policy, the setup is important or this cannot be executed. The baby is automatically wrapped into the benefit of the parent having had the beneficial roles of the trust laid out. That may seem a little webbish in your mind if you haven't heard of this, but when you get with us, we do break it down in connection with the role of what the trust plays in a life policy. So with the life policy in place, the baby automatically benefits from it. For the baby that is not physically born yet, they should be born into your private trust. Birthing plan, create a meeting minute of a projected due date. In the meeting minutes, leave a space for the actual birthing date. Once you get with Minister Veda, then you'll get with us, and then you'll have your trust in place to go over ideals of your birthing plan. Trust baby binder. It's your proof of certificate of trust. You drafted meeting minutes, family Bible, baby deed, birthing plan, medical and durable power of attorney, and hospital use for the spouse, and then a letter of introduction and instruction. Again, if the words are unfamiliar, we're just reprogramming you and we will make it clear. So here's a kind of strategy talk. The baby cannot operate the trust by itself. Create a family trust. Then the family trust can do banking. And then they can get an EIN without the social. During the minor status, trustees are grooming them to operate in trust, taking whatever role of the trust if they choose. Now, some beneficiaries may not be worthy to be learning how to be a trustee. That's up to the trustee to honor and pay attention to what's going on with the beneficiary. Once they are out of the minor status, the wealth cycle and duplication begins if they choose. The child is operating through the family trust. If a social is needed for any business transactions, an idea is you could get them an EIN in their name. So for the trust baby to operate, like an example, I am creating a trust in the baby's name. If credit is a concern, bring this up to us on the call and we'll have some strategies for you.
Yeah, one of the things that mothers and fathers ask me when they're wanting to set their baby up this way is, how do I get public credit? You know, having an LLC is one of those things that a trust can own. So that is kind of one of those strategies that she's kind of alluding to.
So back to the land. The land we are born on is our nation, our nationality.
Yes, so we brought you from the land of the sea, showing you in all the ways how we've opted into contracts unknowingly. Just because you don't know that it is existing doesn't mean it's not happening. And I've said that now 3 times because on a spiritual level, spiritual, I didn't say religious, spiritual, 2 different things. On a spiritual level, contracts are at work, and you may not be experiencing a certain type of lifestyle of abundance because of the certain religious programs that exist within us, because of the certain way that we have been programmed into operating in the law of the sea. Work, 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 right? We're creators. Why aren't we operating like creators? Your intuition is your guide. That's where your true currency flows from. So we're bringing you to this place of back to the land, That is our divine inherited right. Look into the laws of the land. Our land is our home. It is our nationality. It is our nation.
Yes. So when we're looking at separating ourselves from the public to the private, a lot of things that came up for me is like, what does it really even mean to be free? And what does this path kind of look like when we're going into this private realm? So really what we're doing is we're being really intentional about this path, and we educate ourselves, we prepare ourselves. Like I said, we've been operating out of this way our whole lives, not even knowing it. So it's been very unintentional how we've done it prior. So now what we're doing is we're taking that radical responsibility, and we're choosing to do this intentionally, and we're choosing to do this privately. We're the controllers. We are now taking ownership. So as mothers and fathers, we start by reclaiming our own birth stories and healing our own traumas. Because if we're bringing little babies into this world and we're not dealing with our own stuff, we're not bringing them in free. We're bringing them with stuff to deal with themselves. So really, what we're doing is we're again taking that responsibility for ourselves, healing ourselves, so we can bring these babies into the world that they can do what they need to do right from the get-go. And we recognize that this is a mindset and a lifestyle first and foremost. A lot of people think, they got all their paperwork done, they got the trust done, they have it all in paper form, but they haven't got their mind done first. This is all in your mind. You know who you are first, and then the paperwork is what backs you up, and you're knowing who you are. So we're going back to putting trust in ourselves and our creator over the systems that have programmed and disconnected us. So there's a million different ways we can think of on how we've lost trust in selves, whether it's going to be ultrasounds or whatever. I'm just using that as an example where we're wanting to know, is my baby okay? Instead of connecting with our baby and asking, hey, is everything good? We're wanting something on a screen to tell us if everything's good. So just going back to connecting to self, knowing who we are, and knowing that the intuitional pings are always coming to us if we're listening. But when we're outsourcing and we're asking everyone outside of us, is everything okay? We're never really tuning in. So we're no longer depending on the government systems just in general. I was talking earlier about like the Social Security Insurance Fund. A lot of people are like, well, what about Social Security if I have my little one has a disability, or if I have a disability, or if I have unemployment? What we're doing is we're setting up systems privately that give us the same benefits, but we're not relying on the government and asking Big Brother for their benefits. We've set ourselves up in that way. We're having private marriages, not getting marriage license. I saw someone commenting on this in the chat earlier on how we're essentially, when you get married legally, all you're doing is creating a contract with the state, and you're inviting them as a party in your private contract with your spouse. So doing this privately. We're focusing on our nutrition and our lifestyle. We're focusing on our health so that we can stay healthy, and we're staying out of hospitals and taking herbs, doing all those different things outside. We're focusing on that ourselves. We're having conscious conceptions, gestation, and birth at home. We know that these imprints, all of these things, even at conception, choosing to have a baby, what imprint that puts on our baby, that they were wanted, and all the feelings that we're feeling all throughout this gestation, the way that we're birthing them in trust. Are we birthing them in trust, and are we putting that imprint on them, or are we birthing them in fear and putting that imprint on them? We're keeping our babies intact and poison free. That means we're not circumcising, we're not injecting our babies, we're not creating this trauma, because really those are trauma imprints, and they are rituals in themselves. So we're trusting the process, knowing these babies are born whole and they're born perfect, just as they were designed to be. So we're putting trust in that. We're having a lotus birth, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit. No birth certificate, no social security number. Those are energetic contracts. They are meant to siphon our energy, right? The birth certificate, all of that creates us as human collateral backing the national debt, right? So they're expecting that our future labor is what's going to pay that off. So do we really want to create that energetic contract that their labor is what's going to back that? We're homeschooling or unschooling. We're not sending our babies off to doctrination camps, which were set up to create workers for a nation. The creator of the public education system was famously known for saying, I'm in the business of creating a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. So you have to think, am I raising a thinker? You know, we're being intentional that way. We're creating ideally entrepreneurs and creators, letting them know that they're on this earth to create. We're operating out of trusts and insurance policies, just as Minister Dion and Minister Samantha have been talking about. Are our babies paying taxes? Like I said, that is a whole system to siphon their energy. So no, our free babies are not paying into that system. We're not letting them siphon that. And really it comes down to freedom of thought and freedom of mind. That really is the biggest thing. If you don't have time to think and enjoy your time, that's why your energy is the most important thing you have. That's why they're always trying to siphon that from you. And yeah, trick you with the TV, with the sports, all these different things. Not that you can't enjoy time, but as long as you have freedom of time. So a lot of mothers and fathers ask me too. They're like, what does this path look like? They have tons of different questions on, if I have a baby without a birth certificate and social, can they still go to school? Can they get a driver's license? Can they get a job? Can I write them off on my taxes? You know, there's all these different questions. So I've created an offering that really goes deep dives all of this and goes into the how-tos, any question you could think of how to operate with a baby that's not in the system. If you go to my website, it's called The Sovereign Baby. Is this the right choice for my family? So I just wanted to throw that out there that I can go much deeper, and I do how they're going to do all the things. So really, we're talking here about the free birth route and what you must know if you're going this route. And the only way to guarantee a sovereign baby is to have a sovereign birth. So we have to really think about who we're inviting into our birth, and that can determine whether our birth stays private or if it goes public. So not a lot of people know that the state can show up in our birth by a few different ways. It can show up in our birth if we're entering a hospital. We're literally entering the state's environment. It is a public business. We're showing up there, or through licensure. So not many people know that when you hire a licensed midwife and maybe you choose to have a home birth, what you're doing is you're inviting the state into your home. So now you've created your home into a public space, because that license, whether it be a OB in a hospital or a licensed midwife, they are required by law under their license to register the baby if they attended the birth. So just knowing that there are different ways that we are inviting the state into our birth. And also knowing that all of their fears and their energies are all going to play a role into our birth and how it's going to affect how we birth our babies. If they're worried about hemorrhaging or whatever, their worry is going to affect your birth. And actually, their fears can cause hemorrhaging in your birth. So being super sacred, not just about the licensure and who you're inviting, but the energies that we're bringing in, who we're inviting into the birth. We really want to invite people that trust us as much as we trust ourselves. So having a sovereign birth means having a free birth or choosing to have an unlicensed midwife or a traditional midwife. Not a lot of people know that there's a difference between the two, that there is licensure. They have an oath to the state. And there are women that have chosen an oath to women. So just knowing that you can't serve two masters. If you've chosen to get a license, then you're choosing the state. And I want to make a quick plug actually as I'm saying that, because we can choose to have a sovereign birth or we can make it public. Just like if you choose to have a lawyer create your trust is going to be statutory. So you don't want to create a trust with a lawyer because it's automatically going to be public. So that's one of the things we're talking about here is essentially Minister Gianna and Minister Samantha are the unlicensed midwives of the trust realm, keeping your trust private. So it's not being in the jurisdiction of the United States. You do that with a lawyer, you're automatically going to be registered into their jurisdiction. So when we're, so when we're talking about the home birthing plan, we're protecting our baby. So we're we're having a family trust that they're being born in. I have a free birth guide that I created for myself when I had my own, just all the things that you would need on hand if you did hemorrhage or had any, really trusting birth, but knowing any emergencies that could possibly happen. But first and foremost, knowing how to prevent them, and you're trusting your body. So if anyone's looking into free birth, I do have a guide that I offer for people. We're creating our private records. So within those private records, we have our family Bible. We're recording our births that way. We have the baptism certificate. There's a baby deed, affidavits of nationality. We talk about a newspaper publishing, different affidavits and different affidavits that replace government forms, because using as few government forms as possible. That's something I've created as an offering in my Sovereign Baby records for people that are wanting to go this route with their baby. And we're getting them a passport with no social security number and Lotus birth. So I want to talk a moment about our religious beliefs, because our religious beliefs are really what we're standing on here. The government has to honor our religious beliefs, and they do not have to be part of an organized religion. I'll just say that. I personally am not part of an organized religion, and it kind of goes into this whole inversion that has been created. So I want to say one of the reasons why a family Bible is so important is because a family Bible is just symbolic. It's symbolic of God's law in physical manifestation. And the physical manifestation of the inversion is Black's Law Dictionary. So here we have these two inversions, but also even going a little bit deeper into religion, there's been an inversion there as well. So what we're doing when we're creating our own private records in our family Bible is the government essentially will honor the family Bible as a legal book of records. So we're creating our own family into this legal book of records. And if you read the very first page in the Bible, it's a contract between God and man, saying that God or man holds dominion over the land. So you're adding your family's information to this and you're recording it. So really, again, no matter if you're part of the organized religion or not, I'm personally not. It's a book of records that you're adding yourself to. And then the baptism certificate too. We're not baptizing into religion. When I essentially became a minister so that I could offer these offerings to mothers and fathers looking to do this. So we're not baptizing into religion like the Pope's done in all these different ways, trying to energetically take that. So we're alchemizing this to our own benefit. So I just wanted to kind of make note of that. So if you've been registered or your baby gets registered, you still, no matter what, you want to create these private records for your family because it's tying us back to the land. If all you have is a birth certificate, that means the only evidence out there is that you're a dead entity and that you're a corporation. So you want to have this proof of aliveness in the physical form. I mean, it's kind of silly to even say that because we are physically alive, but if the only paper manifestation is a birth certificate, that's not proof. So really what we're doing is no matter what, whether you have a birth certificate or not, you're creating these private records to tie us back to the land jurisdiction. So I want to quickly go over just Lotus birth because it's such a beautiful thing and it's more of an energetic contract. It's a spiritual thing. So when we're having a Lotus birth, if you don't know what that means, it's having your baby and the umbilical cord and placenta stays attached until it naturally severs. So a third of your baby's blood is still inside the placenta. So we're allowing all of that blood, all of those stem cells, and beyond that, the full consciousness of the baby to transfer. I have a little snippet of my Lotus birth ebook. This is one of the pages. It kind of goes through all the different benefits of Lotus birth. I won't go into all of this here. If you guys want to go into that, you can read my Lotus book ebook. It's for free on my website. But it talks about all the benefits. We're choosing to allow our baby to choose when they're ready to transition earthside because they still are in between worlds. There is an we have these meridian energetic circuits throughout our body because we are energetic beings, right? So this energetic circuit goes through the umbilical cord, it goes through the placenta, and it is our trust in self. So when we're cutting that, it is an energetic disconnection ritual. And we are energetically and physically disconnecting ourselves from that circuit. So if we can keep that preserved, this knowing and trust in self, there's a reason why it's called a gut feeling and why our umbilical cord comes right out of our gut. It is connection to self, it's connection to knowing, it's connection to creator, it's also connection to our own mothers. So that is a whole imprint that we're putting on ourselves. It's connection to mom. Yeah, I won't go into all the benefits. You guys can read through those, but a lot of mothers and fathers too, when they hear about this, they're like, "Oh, that sounds so crazy," because we're so used to this disconnection ritual, and or even ritualizing having the father be the one that's disconnecting mom and baby. But a lotus birth, it really actually is so simple, and it creates this beautiful ceremony that all you're doing is you're dressing the placenta with salts and herbs, and you're being intentional, and you're allowing the baby to detach when they're ready. So I'll show you kind of a quick snippet of what that looks like. Yeah, so really you're dressing it, you're preserving the placenta, you're wrapping it in absorbent pads, and then you can put it in this little convenient bag that keeps it right next to baby, and it really is super easy. So when people are feeling like that sounds so inconvenient, it really isn't. It's very intentional, and it allows you to bond with your baby because no one's passing your baby around like a casserole when you have a placenta attached. You're keeping that sacred, that aura attached because baby and placenta are born with one aura as well. So kind of transitioning into the universal trust. So one of the reasons why I love preserving even the physical baby in the placenta, realizing that we are all part of this universal trust between our creator and what we've been entrusted in as stewards of the land. The creator is always protecting us, and we've forgotten that because we've been disconnected. We were disconnected from our umbilical cord as well as this knowledge. So what we're doing right now is we're moving from the sea jurisdiction to the land jurisdiction. And I love this picture because I feel like it just depicts it so beautifully.
Mhm. Yes, it does. So to transition, like she said, you want to think about how trust can be used to plan for your future. So we've talked about the lotus birth, we talked about the universal trust, we talked about the unum sanctum trust. Like you should be like opening your mind to new possibilities, and oh, maybe it's time for me to be considered a major instead of a minor, because that's what we were considered if we don't run our own affairs. So when you're a major, you learn how to protect your assets. Trust our probate blocker. Trust also connect to life policies, and trust can actually donate. When you get fancy or you work with us, you can actually own your own private family foundation. And then 100% of the trust income can be transferred from one trust to another or to a private family foundation. So we try to show a little difference between what attorneys may ask you, and those are the questions on the left. And they're so boring to me because I feel like they're so just stationary. Like, have you ever used or had a trust before? If so, are you pleased with the trustees handling your affairs? Does your current estate plan take advantage of many credits and exemptions available to you? Like, these are questions you kind of didn't think about, but they're not educating you. They're just questions. Like they're not even feeding your soul. Are your children adequately provided for? I mean, what do you think? This is why we're here, right? So just those are some of the questions. And then questions if you work with us, questions we may ask. Do you know who you are? Like living person, natural person versus living being versus an actual person. We go over different definitions. What is jurisdiction? That's important to talk about. What is law versus legal? Then the difference between pro se versus proprietary persona. I was working with um what is that, the attorney's assistant paralegal, and she kept thinking that proprietary persona was pro se, and I'm like, no, it's not a short version of it. There's two different things, and she wasn't even sure, and she's still in school. Anyway, if an attorney reps you, what are you considered? Like what do you have to like these are the things we discuss and you can screenshot this so that you can go look this up. What is international law, divine law? So we go over various laws and we do ask you to research as much as you can because it helps you stand better in your documents. What is personal property versus private property? Hint, not all real or personal property is private property. So you have your intellectual property, you have your tangible and intangible. So that was the answer I was looking for earlier. What does subject to mean? That's kind of their key term they throw everywhere. And then what is capitis demitio versus maximum versus capitis demitio minimum? These are things to just be aware of and try to learn a little more. So you may choose us as your guides because you want to feel involved in the creation of your trust. You want your intentions embedded in the trust and not your attorney's intentions and not ours. We're not in your trust. You do not want to hire an attorney because you know they work for the bar. You feel as though something greater is not being taught to you. You are fed up with researching between all the gurus. You recognize that you can self-govern yourself, but you need to know how. You want to learn how to operate without an SSN. You're willing to do the work. So a note we like to say, attorneys cannot guarantee you results of a trial, but we can guarantee that your intentions will be a part of your trust. That is very important. So really wanted to share why get a trust after all that we have spoken of. Here's something that was actually in a movie.
So, Sarah Getty, your great grandmother, is her trust. I buy oil fields, the money from which I invest in shipping. I pay someone else to transport your own oil, the money from which I invest in refineries. I pay someone else to process your oil, the money from which I invest in gas stations. I pay someone else to pump your own gas. The money from which I invest in hotels to house my workers. The money from which I invest back into the trust. The money from which I invest in buying more oil fields. You see the beauty of it? It's like a spider. Exactly. But a money spider. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a self-sustaining system. It never pays a cent in tax because it never goes a cent into profit. For the purposes of accounting, Getty Oil runs at a loss, my boy. At a loss. We're so poor, we could get milk tokens from the goddamn British government.
So I love that. As you can see, they kept cycling their wealth and they connected it. The key that he's doing, as you can see, his beneficiary was now ready to learn how to continue on that, right? So that's what he was showing them. So we encourage you to bring your families together to learn about how to embody trust from the inside out with Deep Sea Royalty and Wealth Cycle System. And of course, Minister Veda, even though she's with Minister Veda and giving birth, is still part of us. So this should not be a financial burden on one person. It should be an exclusive family investment. And let's hear what this guy had to say.
Hey, Daddy, what you working on?
And I am working on reading over our trust.
A real trust?
A real trust, like a trust put the house, the real estate, the land, cars, burial information, insurance policies. Somebody want to sue me? I don't owe nothing. The trust owns it. Everything in the trust. Everybody's name is in here, whether what we're gonna do with it, who's gonna get something, who not gonna get nothing. Everybody is in here.
So what is it? Let me see it.
Yeah, so this is the trust. It's a revocable trust. It's a revocable trust. And it has all the information, our mortgage information, what do you call it?
Investments.
Investment properties. Everything is in this trust. So when you get married, see, your husband right there, is soon to be husband.
My boo.
When y'all get married, and boo, you get something in when you get married. Now y'all gonna have your own. Boo gonna get his later. He gonna have to You gotta get his from the mud. Well, you're gonna have a head start. But his children now, they're gonna be taking care of his children.
All
and
in the
children,
trust.
great-grand. Let everybody know we all on the same page. It's a difficult situation we need to talk about, but somebody got to say it. I don't mind saying it. You know,
Generational wealth, right?
generation.
So he mentioned revocable, which is an option and it stops it from probate, but it doesn't protect assets from being messed with from the creditors. So we specialize in irrevocable trust. And most attorneys will, and even if you're an attorney and you're on the call and you probably can say something, most will say get you a revocable because they can make money every time you're making a change to your trust. We kind of teach you how to do that. So privately, where you're not needing to come back, we educate you enough to stand strong, to move forward, to pass it down to the next generation.